What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. This is episode number 14.
Building is difficult, but really the thing is that it costs about $250 a square foot for me to build a brand new house. The resale value and the rent value goes up, so you're selling in properties like these for $600 to $800 a square foot.
Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if this is your first time listening to this podcast is all about interviewing successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs as they share how they started their business and scaled. Whether you have no properties or 100 properties, listeners can expect to learn actionable steps to grow and sustain their own real estate portfolio. If you haven't already, please make sure to leave a review on this podcast on whatever app you are listening to. It will help tremendously for the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Also, if you haven't followed us on Instagram or YouTube, please make sure to do that at Chasing Cashflow podcast, where you'll get content all about real estate investing. And we are back. Another amazing day to talk some real estate. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And today's episode is going to be awesome. This topic we have not touched on yet. It's investing in ADUs. Now, with this investor, he's based out of California, which I know a lot of you just cringe right now, but he's making it work and he grew up there, so he knows the streets. California can be extremely difficult and probably one of the most difficult markets to invest in, but he has a niche in investment strategy that is making it work. And what he does is he goes out, tries to buy properties that only break even, like they don't cash flow that much. One of the deals he talked about, he said he was extremely happy about $100 a month when he first purchased it. But then his strategy is to build ADU on the property, which are accessory dwelling units. First time I'm learning in depth about them. I kind of had a brief, understanding of them, but we go into depth as to, the laws, what you have to expect, what you have to do, and the building process that goes behind adding ADUs. Now, with those, he talks about how, the square footage you can build for about 250 square foot, and you can end up selling it for about 600 to 800 square feet. So it's all the appreciation that is forced into this property is by the ADUs, which is absolutely amazing. I just think it's a unique, niche-based investment strategy that someone that's listening could take a lot of value in, and it's just a cool story. He has an amazing background in how he got into real estate, and I'm just super excited to share his story. So why don't we just jump right into it? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Today we have a great guest in Roberto De Leon.
De Leon, yes.
De Leon. Oh, I'm so sorry. I told you I was going to butcher it. But
you're good.
No, thanks for coming on. I'm super excited to dive into, how you run your business, because it's a lot different than a typical investor.
Yes.
But first off, let's get get to know a little bit about you. So how did you first get into real estate investing? And what kind of do you do day to day for a full-time job?
Yeah, so I got into real estate investing in 2012 when the market was during a recession. The market crashed. I actually graduated college, got my master's degree, and I had a good job, so I had disposable income during a difficult time. So I jumped into investing. It was like the next thing to go into, and I did house hacking. So that's how I bought a 4-bedroom house. I blocked out the back of the house, added a bedroom, and that essentially paid half the rent. So that was my introduction to real estate there. Bought that in 2012. So it's tripled in value since then.
But, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell everyone where you invest as well?
So I invest in Los Angeles, mostly in Los Angeles, Burbank, North Hollywood. I usually try to invest in A-class areas that appreciate more in value. So I strictly just invest there, don't do any out of state, and I focus mostly on building ADUs.
Gotcha. So with that first house hack, first off, was it called house hacking back then when you were doing it? Or?
No, when I didn't know any of these definitions until like 2019, 2020, when I started like looking into it, and I followed Bigger Pockets. I didn't even know anything about that. I just naturally just thought I'm going to close it off, 4-bedroom. I'm a single guy at the time. And I just naturally just thought that was the right way to go. But there was no definition for that back then.
That's so cool that you just thought, this is going to be a good idea just to rent out by the room and, have it cover my mortgage. So before then, did you have any past like construction knowledge or anything? Because, with your business now, you build a lot, and with that first property you did. So did you have any past
No, actually, I walked into it. I usually always looked at distressed houses. When I first went, I just wanted a house in Burbank, and
Okay.
I just looked at what was the cheapest. I looked at and that price, and usually the cheapest correlates to a distressed property. So
Yeah.
and I just started doing it. I just started working, started doing projects little by little, rehabbing bathrooms, rehabbing kitchens, doing some work myself, and then just started just doing more and more projects as I went forward.
Great. Okay. And obviously, California is going to be a little bit more expensive than your typical area. So, as far as that, first off, how much competition is there in cheaper properties, especially in California? And then, what's your experience of? I know we touched on it. You live there,
Yeah.
but has there been any difficulties investing in California?
Yeah, California is very difficult. There's a lot of wealth, there's a lot of high earners, and there's a lot of investors. I actually moved into the multifamily, buying properties in multifamilies because of single families was too competitive. If you buy a property right now in anywhere in Los Angeles, it could be an underserved area, it could be a A-class area. You're competing with 50, 60 offers a lot of times. I shifted to the multifamily area because I noticed that there was significantly less competition. So on the multifamilies I compete with, you're looking at 5 offers at most. And really for the distressed ones, you're not looking at many because it's a small niche where most bigger investors don't get into. And I'm competing with people that are looking at the second property. So it's much less competition than what I'm used to, than what other people are used to.
Yeah, no, I love that you brought that up because that's true. Because the bigger investors, they're gonna see, anywhere from like a 1 to probably 7, 6, unit property, and they're gonna say, no, that's too small. I want to go bigger. And then your typical starter investor is probably gonna be like, that's a little too big for me. I'm gonna start at maybe a duplex. Yeah. So it's kind of like in that sweet spot. So currently, right now, what's your portfolio look like?
Yeah, so our portfolio, my wife and I, we have a $7.8 million portfolio, which consists of 3 multifamilies and 2 single families. So we on those properties, we try to build and add value. So we're going to continue growing. We plan to buy another 4 this year and another 4 next year.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing. And it's crazy that 5 properties equals $7.8 million. That is insane. Yeah. Especially, when you go to other markets, it's going to probably take 20 properties to be like that. But so for you, I know you said you build and force appreciation. First off, how'd you kind of get your foot in the door for the first couple investments? Since they are higher dollar amounts, you're going to have to put more down. And then how do you force appreciation on those properties?
Yeah, everything changed in 2020 when California changed the law to make ADUs. They passed a law that made it easier to build housing because we have such a housing crisis here. So Governor Newsom created this law in 2020 where you could build ADUs, where you could convert your garages or build brand new houses on your single family lot or multifamily lot. And that's what really opened our doors to investing that way because it's the barrier of entry to invest in LA is difficult. You have to have a lot of money down. You're competing with a lot of people, and a lot of times they don't cash flow. So what we used is that we started building our primary, and we did our first BRRRR in 2019. And that's what really opened up our eyes. Okay, we could do this. We could replicate this. We added 2,000 square feet on our primary house, and we did the refi, and we cashed out. We got the money we invested and more, and our house appreciated significantly. So really, the biggest thing in LA that people building is difficult. But the thing is that it costs about $250 a square foot for me to build a brand new house. The resale value and the rent value goes up. So you're selling in properties like these for $600 to $800 a square foot. So you're getting instantly, as soon as you're done building, $600 in equity, dollars in equity per square foot. So if you build 1,000 square feet, you invest $250,000. You could sell that for essentially $600,000 right there for if it sells for $600 square foot, and you'll get $400,000 in equity. So it's like simple math, but it's not that simple as well. But the equity is there, and that's what really building hasn't caught up with the equity. And I know eventually with inflation, it will cost more to build. But right now, that's our play, and that's what we're throwing our money at right now, building.
Wow, that's incredible. Just the difference between building and then ending up selling it. So, would you say that first off, in California, in the markets that you're specifically investing in, you have to go for appreciation rather than cash flow? First off,
Yeah.
do you think that you could specifically, bank on cash flow, or do you really have to try and force that appreciation?
It's very hard to find any property that cash flows in Los Angeles. Very difficult. You're looking at cap rates. You're looking at multifamilies. You're looking at cap rates at 3.2, 3.4%. If you're looking at the A class, B plus class areas, which I invest in. So really our approach is we buy as long as it breaks even. If it breaks even, we look at a large lot and we look at where we can build. Do they have a big garage? Do they have a lot of land? And then we build there. And that's our cash flow. That it's a 2-year process, but the cash flow is significant. And whatever money you invest, you can just refinance and get it back. Because whatever you build, you're going to build in equity significantly once you're done.
Wow. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense because in your market, it's so expensive that you need to find a place that break even. And then you plan on building an ADU or two. I know we're going to get into a deal with yours where you're doing two, and then that alone will bring in your cash flow. I think that's awesome. So have you been pretty much rolling in, doing that from the first property that you got and rolling it into the next property? So you take cash out and just go do the next one?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So I use that money and just recycle. The properties we have, we're maximizing ADUs as much as possible. We have to figure out, sometimes we have tenants and we have to take away the garages. So we have to pay them for the garages because LA rent control is a little strict here. But yeah, we're maximizing as much as we can. How we fund our construction is a little creative as well. We do everything on our own. We do conventional financing to buy. And we take HELOCs on our primary property as our construction fund. So our second property, we have our third primary now, but our second primary, when we're living there, we took a $700,000 equity line on that property. So when I say you build equity when you build, we took a $700,000 equity line. We did a cash out refi of $360K, and we did that $700K equity line is still with us, and that's what we build with. So we use that, we build interest-only payments. So our project that we just finished in January took us about a year. It cost us about it cost us about $412 because we rehabbed the existing house. But the payments I paid on that for the whole year was around $6,000. Once I refinanced that house out, I paid off my equity line, and now I'm going to repeat the process again.
Do you use commercial financing or do you use like conventional?
Conventional.
Or commercial. Okay,
yeah,
conventional. Got you.
I'm gonna have to jump into the commercial with this property that we're starting in June because we're gonna make it 5 units. But as long as it's under 4 units, we can still do conventional. And since I have a W-2 job, it helps me get the financing. If I didn't have a W-2 job, that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult getting that kind of financing.
Yeah. So when you build these ADUs, right? First off, do you rent them to, long-term, short-term? And then secondly, what's the standard? Like, what's the market standard for how nice that property is? You put in like luxury vinyl plank. What are the finishes like in there as well?
Yeah. So we actually go pretty upscale in our rentals. We build it like if we lived there. And a lot of people are actually anti this, but if you look at the market, we invest in Burbank. It's a high-end area. It's growing. It appreciates a lot, but the rentals there are very badly done. They have carpet, old bathrooms. What we do to really set ourselves aside, we put glass doors, vinyl flooring, really nice kitchens, really nice design. Instead of us doing stucco on the outside, we do paneling in the front to really make it attractive. And we usually all the finishes are very well done. My wife designs the properties. And we quickly, as soon as we put them for rent, we get 20, 30 people interested in renting. And we rent them at 90% of the market. So we rent them at the highest of what the market is. Okay,
so when you rent these, so first off, how many bedrooms are in these ADUs? Is it just an efficiency?
So it depends on the square footage. Every city has different requirements. So we converted a garage, which is a 1-bedroom, and then we just built a brand new house and we finished that in January. That was 1,000 square feet and that was a 3-bedroom. So those are very tight bedrooms. If you think about 1,000 square feet, but bedrooms make a big difference wherever you go. Like an additional bedroom, even if it's a 10 by 10, makes a huge difference. And that's where staging really helps as well. As long as you stage it well, you can really show the potential tenant of how it looks.
So when you go and do, put it in, what's the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom in that market?
Oh, you're talking significant. You're talking about every bedroom's $1,000. That's how I usually put it. Every bedroom you add is $1,000 a month. And then if you STR that and you do an Airbnb, you're talking about $2,000 difference. We just started. We just jumped into the STR Airbnb business a couple months ago, and it's opened up our eyes to how to diversify these multifamilies and use Airbnb in a different way.
Gotcha. Okay, so right now specifically long-term tenants, and you're starting to kick in some short-term rentals where you can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
and do you
Yes.
self-manage?
Yeah. Self-manage we do. We actually are going to be branching out. We do property management, self-management. We're actually going to, we had to fire our previous property manager because we didn't like how they manage it. No one manages better than us. So we're actually going to bring an employee underneath our belt and train them how to do it and manage them ourselves and have that person do the property management. This person specifically does this as a full-time job. So we're going to hire them on the side with their knowledge and just have them as employee where they benefit, get a 1099, and they build their business as well. So we're branching out that way so we have more control of the people that are managing our properties, because it's very important that we maintain them. We invest a lot of money in keeping them up to par and up to 90% of the standard of what the market is, but we want to make sure we sustain that as well.
Nice. Yeah, I had someone on the podcast, a couple weeks ago, and they said the same thing, that they're actually bringing someone in-house. They're going to train them themselves, which, like you made it perfect point, which is no one's going to manage it better than yourself. So if you kind of install the values of how you manage something into this person that's never managed a property for you, they're going to do it somewhat closer to you than some other company will that has their own ways, stuck in their own ways. So I think that's very cool. So how do you plan about going in as far as interviewing for one, and then also what kind of person you're looking for that?
Yeah, we're looking at someone with experience because we don't want necessarily teach them because we're not experienced in property management. Yeah, we do it, but really laws, especially in California, change so much. It's very lawyer friendly, sue friendly. So the person we got works in property management. They have inspiration to build their own business. So we basically, it benefits both. Okay, we'll 1099 you build your business with us. We plan to continue growing. So essentially, they're going to be partnership with us as we go forward.
Gotcha. No, that sounds great. So moving forward, I know you said that you have kind of a goal to get 4 more properties this year, 4 more next year. Yeah. Are they all that same way of building ADUs? And what's kind of your plan with that? Yeah,
so it's going to be, since we started the Airbnb 2 months ago, it's really changed our mind a lot about our investment strategy. Multifamily, and before I go into that too, the ADU law stops in 2025. So we have to figure out, okay, how do we sustain this? We want to build as much as we can until 2025. There's a lot of rumors that will probably continue because there's still a housing deficit, but we work around what's currently in place. So we plan to continue buying in multifamilies, but we're also looking at Airbnb STR. So we're looking at buying 2 STRs this year. And that's short-term rentals, Airbnb rentals, just to build the cash flow. Because the most difficult part about this kind of investing is that your money's held up for such a long time. You have to leave 25% down to purchase the property, 20 to 25% down to purchase it. And then eventually a year after you get the plans approved, you're going to probably spend $300, $500K after. So your money's tied, a good 500,000 is tied for 2 years, which makes it very difficult. So that's why we're going to start throwing in STRs in our investing, just to give us cash flow and keep us going. So we're changing as we go, really our investment strategy.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, a lot of people think that a pivot is a step back in your investment journey and your business, but it's really not. A pivot, just because you have a plan starting out the year, things change. Like you said, laws change. And I think it's very important to know that it's okay to take a pivot to benefit your business and benefit yourself. So I think that's huge right there. Why don't you tell people just that don't know, what is an ADU?
So an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It's a new law that started in 2020. It was actually before permitted, but very restricted. So if you build an ADU law, you had to show that you live there. You had to provide additional parking. And in Los Angeles, lots are very small. You don't have that many lots because we're so dense here. So this new ADU law makes it much more easier to build. So you could build, the setbacks for you to build are only 4 feet from the property line, 4 feet from a dwelling. And you can convert garages. You can actually add on to your existing property, convert part of your existing property into an ADU. So there's so many different avenues of creating ADUs. You could build a 2-story ADU. You could build one on top of your garage. So these are all additional units. So basically ADU is accessory dwelling unit. It's additional house you could build. And you could build that on your single family or on a multifamily. So on a single family, they let you build a junior ADU and an ADU. A junior ADU has to be under 500 square feet, and an ADU could be 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. The best part about this ADU law is that if you buy a multifamily, you can build 2 ADUs and sometimes a junior ADU, so 3 ADUs. And if you have enough units, so say if you have an 8-unit property, they give you a bonus. So every 4 units, you get an additional ADU. So you could, if you have an 8-unit, you could build 4 units and junior ADU sometimes, but usually 4 units. So there's so many benefits if you have more units to this law. And that's why we moved into the multifamily, because the barrier to entry is so hard that I'd rather get a bigger lot where I could build more and get the equity there.
No, that is so interesting, because I didn't know you buy an 8-unit, you have the capital to go ahead and build 4. Now you have a 12-unit. And, like you're saying, that's where you make your cash flow, is off of the ADUs, not necessarily the main properties that are there. So with ADUs and building them, let's say you did get an 8-unit or something like that, and you build 4, what's the parking lot, or what's the parking like? Like, do you have troubles with that?
Yeah, so I'm still learning on this. So I overbuilt on one of them. So I took advantage. I basically told my architect, build as much as you can. So on the property we just built, literally there's only 2 parking spaces, and there's a 4-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and a 1-bedroom. So there's probably a good 12 people living there, and they're parking on the street. And this is probably why I don't think the law is going to get extended, because people like myself that overbuilt there, were adding a lot more parking spaces on the street. But the law's flexible, and that's where really you could take away all the parking and just have people park in the street and just build units. And I always have people criticize me, well, who would want to rent that? I'm like, well, if you drop the price low enough, they'll rent it. Maybe $100 less than what the market is, but they'll rent it because there's a need right now. And if you build it nicely, people will take it, because there's not a lot of nice rentals out there in Los Angeles. There's a lot of old rentals, not well kept, bad property management. So this is a market that a lot of people aren't getting into, and I'm taking advantage of the opportunity right now.
Yeah, no, I honestly have never, talked to someone that actually does ADUs, so that's why I'm asking all these questions. I'm super interested, and I think they're awesome. So, another question I had that came to mind was, when you rent these out, do you have conflict between renters, since you're so close?
Yes and no. So we're working on a property that we're building in June. So we're starting this as 2 ADUs, and it was a 3-car garage. It was a triplex, but they combined one of the units, so they're sharing one of the 2 units. We had to take away the garages. So we had to negotiate them, pay them a certain amount for the garages. They weren't too happy with that, because obviously you're moving a garage out. And we haven't met with them yet to show them that the whole parking is going to get taken away yet, because we're going to have to reimburse them for that as well. So we have to reimburse them about $150 per parking spot there. The great thing is that only one of those units park there. So the other 2 just they don't have transportation. They take the bus or Uber or something else. So that unit we actually benefited, but if they were parking there, that would probably cost us a good $600 of parking fees, parking reimbursements that we have to do per year, which we bake into our cost analysis if we need to. So
Okay, so
it's difficult. It depends on the property, but on that one, we're dealing with taking the garages away right now.
Got you. Yeah. So I guess at that point, anyone that comes in to build something ADUs and create a home for someone else, the tenant's probably not going to, love it, but as long as you handle it the right way, I think you'd be fine.
Yeah.
So do you care if we just hop into a deal maybe that you had so we can kind of understand the full process as far as finding a property, buying it, building an ADU, and, what a return on that looks like?
Yeah, no problem. So there's a property that we're converting in June. So we're going to build a 2-story ADU, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the 3-car conversion, which is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath of 800 square feet. So we actually bought this property in 2021 for $1.14 million. We left 25% down on that property. That cap rate was about 3.9% cap rate. We were cash flowing about $150, $200 on our analysis, and we're cash flowing about $100 now a month. So we got a little better than what we expected. We usually just want to break even. So we actually just cashed $100, which is nice. It's a triplex on that property, very big lot. That lot is 9,000 square feet. It has a 2-story duplex in the back and a 1-story single family in the front. So as soon as I saw that property, I saw a 3-car garage, that's 1 unit, and I saw a big footprint, a parking footprint of 40 by 40. So instantly I thought, okay, that's a 2-story house I could build there. Not a single story, because a lot of people might say, oh, why build a second story? It's going to cost more. But it's so hard to purchase a property and land here that you build as much as you can, no matter what.
Yeah.
Maximize.
And you build up.
Yes. Because every square foot is going to give me $600 in equity. And when I cash out refi, that equates to hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end. So
I love how you have this down to a math.
Yeah.
So with the purchase price, so you purchase a property, which is unbelievable, 1.145, and you cash flow $100. That's insane to purchase that high of it.
And that's very hard to do. Just cash flow alone on 1.1 million is very difficult in LA. It's very difficult to find a property like that.
Yes. So how did you find the property?
Though, this one was just a horrible agent. Didn't reply to anyone. And fortunate for myself, my sister's my agent, and she actually was my partner on this property. And she kept on nagging him, hey, we're sending your offer. And they replied back after like a month. And it was a very good property in a nice area. And they accepted our offer there. So most of our properties, we look at areas. So I have a property by a freeway. I have a property by a train. I have a property by airport path. So I look at anyone that doesn't want a property. I look at the ones that stay in the MLS for a long time. If they're over a month, that means it meets our criteria. That means people don't want it. All we look at is the area. If they have good schools, we want that. And it's really A-class areas because those are the ones that appreciate. And those are the ones we'll rent quickly because people want to move into those areas.
You're right, yeah. So when you purchased this property, that 25% down, was that from that HELOC, the revolving HELOC you had from your primary?
So that one was through a cash out refi on my first property. So I took out $250K on that property when interest rates were low, and I used that to purchase that property. So,
and when did you purchase that first property, and how long did it take for you to be able to take that money out?
So I purchased that property in 2012, and I took out that money in 2019. Yeah, 2019. On that property, the first property, I've already cashed out refi $750,000. So I'm just on the first one. My second one, I've cashed out $380, and I took out equity line of $700. So I'm using the equity to build more as I go forward.
And that's an important point too. You're taking that money. You're not going to buy Lambos and all that. You're putting it back into your business, which is eventually going to grow and build everything in your business. So you have this triplex, and is it fully rented right now?
Yes, it's fully rented. And that was a difficult part too. They had a lot of problems with the renters. Not problems, but there was a lot of questionable things going on. The landlord died. The owner died. The one of the family members took over. They had no history of rents. This is during COVID, which is very where you could not pay rent and get away with it. But they were able to show us some way that they were collecting rent through cashier's checks. So we took the risk. We said, okay, this looks like they're paying rent. Let's take it. Let's submit plans as soon as we get it. We submit plans as soon as we get it, and they were paying rent. Great thing that we're breaking even there. So
yeah. Okay, so they're all rented, and then now, when does you might have mentioned it? When does construction start, And you're building two more ADUs, one from the 3-car garage and the 40 by 40 pad, I believe you said.
Yes.
That's going to be a 2-story. And how much is your renovation budget for that?
So that one I'm expecting to be around $500K. So we're going to build
both?
Yeah, for both. It's a 1,200 square 1,200 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and an 800 square foot 3-car garage.
Okay. Yep. And you plan on when do you plan on having that done? And then when you get that done, are you just waiting that once it's complete, that's when you're able to cash out again?
Yeah. So I have to rent it. So the keys with the lenders is I have to show a lease and a security deposit deposit in my bank account. So as soon as it's done, and that on that property I only have 2 parking spaces as well. So, so I'm maxing that property out too. But we wait until we're done. I'm expected to be done with that probably February next year. We bought that property for 1.14 million, and I'm expecting the ARV to be 2.5 million. So I'm expecting it to go up $1 million and more. So our rents were our rents currently are $6,000, and I'm expecting our rents to go up to 11.5 when we're done.
Okay. So when you're done, obviously that's insane that you're creating about $600,000 in equity right there just by building everything. When you're done with this, what's your projected cash flow? Is this something you're going to turn into a short-term rental as well?
I'm looking into that. I'm thinking about short-term rental as well. And one of them, the newer one, I like doing the newer properties because they're more attractive. So I'm thinking about short-term rental right now. It's long-term rentals. That out of that 11.5, we're expected to profit per month $5K. So $5K a month. But that's when we're done. We're going to cash out refi and hopefully get the $500K back. And our profit will probably be around $3K. So $3,000
a month.
So, but then you get your $500,000 back, and that's
exactly.
And then you could buy either bigger property or stick to our focus of 1.4 million or under multifamilies in these areas.
So, do you plan to touch at all the triplex that's already there?
Yes. I don't. We do. We just bought a property right now about a month ago, and we try to do cash for keys if the option is there, if the tenants want it. On that property there, the tenants are very happy. They're paying, so we don't tend to bother. If it cash flows and breaks even, that's our philosophy there. If we do see if the tenant's not happy or if they want to get out, we do offer cash for keys and renovate. But our goal is to renovate the whole property, top to bottom, landscaping, existing units. If we can add more bedrooms in the units, we try to do that. But everything, we try to keep it everything renovated.
Great. Okay. And that's a great way to do it because, when you're done with everything, your CapEx and maintenance expenses are going to be minimal. So
and that's another mind-blowing thing is cost segregation studies. The cost segregation study. So this is the first year that I'm not going to be paying W-2 taxes, or I'm going to pay a minimal amount because what I'm investing into these purchases and investing in these renovations, I'm doing a cost segregation study to write off my W-2 income. My wife no longer works, so she classifies as a real estate professional. So we're able to benefit off the depreciation, accelerate it in the first year, which is mind-blowing. This is how people are able to keep on growing using these tax benefits.
So I know you're not a tax advisor, but can you tell everyone what that is exactly?
Yeah, so cost segregation study is a study you pay for an engineer to evaluate how much you spend on the property. When you buy a multifamily property, you depreciate the construction and the house, the building, for 27.5 years. With this study and with the tax code, you could accelerate that 25.7 years into 1 year, the first year. So if you do this report, I could accelerate, for example, the money I spent, $400,000 I spent on that renovation, I'm able to accelerate 30% of that. So about $120,000 I could write off on year one once I'm done. So that $120,000 savings could either write off my gains of what I get in rental income or my W-2 income if I show losses there. But you're able to accelerate everything in year one, which is huge tax benefit when you're doing taxes. I don't know if I explained it well, but I tried to sum it up very quickly there.
No, you did. You definitely did because I've heard a couple explanations, but that one definitely made sense. When what's the first off, like obviously the benefit is, you can year one, you can write off that whole thing. But as far as year two, what happens then? Like
I keep on buying. I keep on buying,
yeah.
building.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the thing. Year two, you're not going to have that write off yet. But my goal is not to stop. My goal is to keep on buying and building, at least until 2025, until it's done. Then I have to look at a different approach. But until 2025, I'll be doing that process.
Gotcha. So as far as that goes, if you do that cost segregation, then basically that all gets at year one, whereas it's not 27.5 like you said. So the second year you won't have it, and you would have to pay those taxes. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, and on your gains as well. But the thing is too, it's like it's mind blowing that one, I'm doing a cash out refi, I'm getting the money back. Of that, I invested into the property. So if I invested $400,000, I'm getting that back in the cash out refi, and then on top of that, I'm getting a tax incentive on my W-2 income for the same dollar that I spent. So it's like I'm getting double the benefit for the same dollar I invested. So it's insane to think how your money can multiply by using these strategies.
Yeah, and I guess the worst case scenario, if you did not buy next year, you could still take out, a cash out refi on one of your properties and paid off there. So you got a lot of options.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where if you're profiting too much, just do a cash out refi, higher your interest there, and that's money that instead of paying Uncle Sam, you're keeping yourself and you can reinvest. So there's different ways to leverage around it. So yeah.
So would you say, obviously just because I'm not too familiar with it and I know you're doing it, obviously, no tax advice here. This is just based off of us talking. But when would when would be, you think, a good time for someone to do that? Because obviously, if you're just buying your first property, that probably wouldn't be the best idea, right?
Yeah, it depends. If you're buying and holding it, I recommend it. If you're ever planning on selling it, I would not recommend it. Because if you do that accelerated depreciation, you have to pay, and you sell the property, you get taxed a lot more. So you get, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a cap gain tax on the depreciation. So if you're only buying, holding, and you're going to keep that property, you're not going to sell it, I would totally advise doing it. If you do think, or you have a hint that you are going to sell it later on, I would advise not using that strategy.
Got you. Okay. And obviously, once again, we are not tax advisors. So, what we are saying, we're just talking. So, no, but so with your goal, so it sounds like you don't plan on selling anything. So everything that you get now, you just plan on holding. Is that right?
Yes. I have not sold the property ever. I just hold. I put so much work into it. It's kind of like an art piece. You put so much work into it. To me, it doesn't make sense selling it. I'd rather hold the money. That money is going to be worth more to me on depreciation, appreciation, as well as rental income. I'll get a lot more money long term if I hold it than if I sell it overall.
Yeah, no, 100%. So let's go ahead and dive into real quick. So, does you said you were married. Does you and your wife have like specific things that you do? Like, as far as are you acquisitions? Is she, bookkeeping? Like, what are you guys' roles as far in your business? How do you separate that? And, do you have anyone else?
Yeah. So we're adjusting as we go. So we do everything in-house. So I do the bookkeeping. I do more of the contract, dealing with the contractors. I find the contract subcontractors. Now that we do more work, we have our portfolio of people that we use. My wife does all the design. Airbnb, she loves Airbnbs because she goes on a shopping spree for a month and just buys everything. So she does all design. Now she's going to be dealing with all the architects. So I'm standing away from architects. She's going to be designing it with them, and she'll be designing all the interior as well. I take care of more of the bookkeeping, the financing, and the construction management.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I know that, obviously me and my wife have the same thing. As we keep growing, that's when more roles get put on, and that's when we can delegate. Mm-hmm. But as far as you, and your wife, when you guys first started, first off, was she on board for real estate investing, or was it your idea, her idea, and how'd that work out?
I think my wife wasn't too much. She's more risk adverse than me. I'm like, let's just do it. What's the worst that can happen? We'll go bankrupt and we start over. We're young. So I really have that mentality. Why not? My wife is more risk adverse, but really what changed her mind was when we did our first BRRRR on our second primary. and we got the cash back, and our payment actually was lower. So think about this. So we refinanced the property, we took out 380 grand, and our monthly payment dropped $100. It didn't even make sense. Like, how did it go down? And that's when the light bulb hit, and then my wife was all in after that.
that First off, I would be the same way. If I got that check and the monthly payment went down, I'd be like, holy cow, do what you want. Let me design. No, but that's like just proof of concept that, when you have, for people that have a partner that, you guys haven't done your first deal yet, but you're getting into it, and maybe someone is more risk averse than the other, like my wife as well. When we first started, she was not about it. But, as your wife, you guys did the first deal, got that money back, and it was, a light bulb in her head that said, you know what, this works. And, this could be financial freedom for us and your family. And same thing happened with me and my wife after we house hacked our first 4 unit and we moved out. Then, we were getting that money each month. She was like, holy cow, like, let's get another one, and that's when we start growing and growing. So, no, I think that's awesome in how you guys go about it. And I think that's awesome now that you guys have a system to kind of, Yeah.
And she's retired because of it now. So she's all in now. Like her or not like her. She's in.
That's all. Can't complain about that. Yeah. Not at all. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So as far as, a big thing right now for a lot of investors, and I just kind of want your take on it, is, first off, having to go out of state to invest, because right now, the prices in their market just doesn't work. Now, obviously, you're in one of the most expensive markets, so you understand that fully. Have you? And if you haven't, why haven't you gone out of state with investing?
I've thought about it. I've thought about it a lot, to be honest with you. I'm actually going to branch out and probably do it with my self-directed IRA. I'm going to get a self-directed IRA, invest in that with my 401k money, because I'm not too worried if I lose that money in my 401k if that happens. But I haven't done it for the reasons that I need to control the properties. If I'm going to build, there's so many areas that could go wrong. There's so many bad contractors. There's good contractors out there, but I can guarantee you there's more bad ones than there are good ones. And when comes to that much money, people take advantage of you. And if you're not there every day, they're going to say, well, we need to add this change order. And it's difficult. And the thing with us, my wife and I, we always said, like, we're going to invest in the areas we know. Because out of state, there's sometimes, just like in Los Angeles, you could go one street and the next street is horrible. And we won't know that unless we live there. And we always contemplate on out of state investing, because you could buy a property for $150 square foot. When here you buy a property, you're looking at $800 square foot. So you could get 8 times more over there than here, but not yet. I think we're gonna jump into that this year with the self-directed IRA, and we're actually looking at buying a property in Texas because I have a family member that lives there. But other than that, if it wasn't that case scenario, I probably wouldn't be buying out of state.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, just because, I mean, obviously you have an amazing portfolio there, and in such an expensive market. And, you go to, Indiana or something like that, you can buy a 30 unit for the amount that you're doing, but it seems like your goals aren't really, not as far as like just cash flowing in any type of property. It seems like you have a direct vision on where you want to go. Yeah. So are you so obviously you're forcing appreciation, getting that money, but is your goal ultimately just to have enough cash flow to retire and focus on real estate?
Correct. Yes. That's the goal. I think that's the ultimate goal. And I honestly, it wasn't brought into like a reality until like probably last year. I was thinking, okay, I'm getting better at this. I already know my market. I'm getting good at this. So my goal is to retire eventually, but I said I won't retire unless I make 1.5 times what I make in my W-2 job. I have 2 young kids, so I don't want to throw a burden into them. Even though I believe in myself, I've worked so hard to get to the career I'm at right now that and it's a good job, a good company. I wouldn't go unless I make 1.5 times what my current salary is. And that's variable too, because if I keep on growing in my career, that number goes up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So you're chasing a cat that's running away. Yeah. No, but I mean, it sounds like you're absolutely crushing right now, and that's that's downplaying it. So I have full faith that you're going to get to that. But just as far as obviously you're going for cash flow, you're going to retire, but have you ever had your day job kind of, I guess, take away from you being able to work on your portfolio, your rental business?
It has, to be honest with you, my job is pretty stressful. I work in healthcare. During COVID, it has a lot. The best thing that my wife stopped working last year, and that helped. It was getting too much where my wife now takes a lot of the roles now that she's home more. But yes, I'm getting to a point where, yeah, it is taking away from the real estate investment. But honestly, right now, my priority is my W-2 job because it sustains my family and it's a commitment I make to them. But that's where my wife is taking more of the lead. And then weekends and weeknights, I literally every day, this is literally my schedule. No joke, for the past couple of years, I go to work 8 to 5. I have my kids. I with my kids 8 to 7, put them to sleep around 7 to 8, and I work until midnight. 8 to 12 is literally pure real estate every day, no weekends off. And that's how we're able to sustain this. But I really think that, you invest now, that our future and our kids' future will be set with with us investing the next couple of years this way.
I love that. And one of my favorite quotes, I say it like every podcast, so everyone listening, I'm sorry, but do what others won't now so you can live how others can't later. Absolutely exactly. Love that. And that you're just the epitome of, doing that right now. Yeah. You have to sacrifice in order to make it. And I think that's huge. That's awesome, man. I do want to touch on real quick. So during COVID, how did you handle COVID, especially in California? Because I know the law, like it was insane in California. So how did you, with your properties that you had, kind of handled everything with COVID and, the tenants and all that?
Yeah. So this is the beauty of why we invest in A-class areas, because they get less impacted when a recession happens or something that level happens. So we didn't have anyone not pay rent. So we weren't impacted. The real estate market dropped for like a good 3 months. I still regret it because we were going to go in escrow on a property that was $600,000, was a multi-unit, a 4-unit property, R4 property. And we dropped out because it was too risky because of COVID, because we thought it was going to crash. That property is probably worth now like $2 million. It was 600 at the time. So, but it was too risky. It wasn't worth it. Like, we don't need to take that much risk right now. We have a process, stick with it. Don't get too aggressive. Don't get emotional. Work with the parameters you have. I don't regret it, to be honest with you, because we didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of people thought the market was going to crash. The great thing, fortunate stuff for ourselves, every renter paid. And this is the benefit of buying these areas or better areas, because they went virtual remote. None of them lost jobs. So we're able to sustain in this time.
No, that's great. And I'm glad to hear that. Do you think that, as far as being property managers for your own properties, do you feel like if your property management style helped as well, just as far as, maybe talking to the tenants and, kind of helping them out as well and being understanding? Is that an important part of managing your own properties?
I think the most important part is the selection of tenants. We select 700 FICO score, 3 times income. If they have 700 FICO score, they're going to do if they sustain that 700 FICO score, they're going to do their best to keep that FICO score. And that's a leverage I have. If I go, for example, I rented a property where I was charging $3,600 a month, and this couple had made $350,000 a year. They had reserves and everything, but their FICO score was 580. I said no.
Wow.
I said no, because it's not worth it to me. I'm not willing to take that risk. I'd rather have the 500 FICO score, wait another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and get the right candidate that gets 3 months income. I'll wait a month to 2 months. Rather wait that than go with someone with a lower FICO score. Because once they move in and they stop paying with you, they have nothing to lose. Because they're already, their FICO score is 580. So I think it's a selection of your tenants is more important. And I learned that early on when I didn't check when I did that house hack, my first one. I didn't check anything. I didn't check credit score. I didn't check anything. And that person was actually a crack addict and destroyed that property. So, I learned that quickly, and we're stricter on our requirements, and that's helped a lot.
Yeah, I truly believe that, the best learning you can do in real estate investing is actually going and doing it.
Yeah.
And that's something you learned, and now you're better for it because, you went through that, unfortunately. Yeah. But no, Roberto, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. We are going to head out and start doing the last couple questions for this podcast, but I appreciate you being on, and I love your business with ADUs, and
Thank you.
I wish there was more of a need here in Maryland all the way across the states, but there's not. But no, I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and if it opens up, you should take advantage of it. take a HELOC on your primary and start building.
Shoot, if I get $600,000 of equity every time I build an ADU, you know what? I would do it every time.
And it's crazy because a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people don't want to do it because they don't want to build. But that's the benefit, and that's why we're benefiting. Most people don't do this because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, that, and I honestly think, it's just, just like Detroit, I feel like California is just one of those states where people are like, I don't want to invest there. And unless you're there and actually in California like you are, you know the streets, you know everything, it's probably going to be a lot harder to get someone out of state to end up investing there because, you hear these stories and it's a tenant friendly state, all that. I'm sure you heard it all, but obviously you're doing something right, and, more for you if other people don't come in,
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, great. Well, let's start asking the last question. So one of the ones I wanted to ask you was, where do you find your education as far when you're first starting and everything?
First started really was nothing. I just went with what was out there. I actually didn't do any education. I just did on my own. Now I started researching more in 2019. Read a lot of books. I've read up a lot. Don't think I didn't do education. Podcasts, I think always when you start bigger pockets is the best. But once you start becoming more savvy, you're going to want better literature that's more focused to your niche. So multifamilies, I listen to podcasts. Overall, podcasts are the best. YouTube videos. I focus a lot on tax strategy. So my strategy revolves around the current tax code. I build my strategy and I try to revolve the tax code around it. So I try to look at a lot of the lawyers or tax accountant that have YouTube videos, and I try to see what they do. And that way I try to revolve around those tax codes. So YouTube, podcasts, and books are the best. I don't read books physically. I do more Audible because I drive a lot to work. So I'm able to read a book or two, an Audible, just driving.
Wow. No, I love that. So when you picked out your tax advisor or, whoever, accountant, how did you interview them, or, did you kind of walk them through and say, look, this is what I saw and this is what I heard, can we kind of make something happen here?
Yeah, it's learning experience. I had tax people that didn't really know real estate or said they do, but the person I have now only does real estate professionals. So I try to focus on people that know cost segregation, because at the point where I'm at now, I'm doing really sophisticated real estate deals now with cost segregation, depreciation. I need someone that does this with multiple investors to be able to help me, because I need someone, I'm paying a professional to help me, not for me to guide them. So I'm focusing on someone that just does real estate overall. And I ask questions. Yeah. And I quiz them basically. I quiz them and see how they respond to me. And if I see that they're just bluffing it or they're trying to guess what the answer is, I don't want to work with them.
I think that's so smart. I mean, I actually saw something. It might have been yesterday or the day before. It says it was a video on I think it was Instagram, and it said, "Did you know that 93% of business owners actually pay more than what they should in taxes because of their advisor?" Not saying they did anything wrong, but you can be more savvy with it and get to that specific. Just not being real estate, being a real estate specific tax advisor.
And that was me the first 7 years. So, and I learned and adjusted.
Yeah. Okay. No, great. So next question I want to ask you is, so what would you say to a new investor that's just getting in and taking their first steps into getting into a real estate deal? Because obviously, I know when I first started my first deal, my heart was racing like anything, and I was twitching. It's nerve wracking. Yeah. So what would your suggestion be and advice be to someone to take that first step?
Educate yourself on what you're getting into. Try to find a niche. If you're with a spouse, really try to see what your parameters are and risk, because it might be different. See what it is, because like you say, out of state, it might sound easy, it's cheaper, but that's too risky for my wife and I. That's something that'll create too many stressors. So I think know what you could take and know what you would feel comfortable doing. understand that, because a lot of times people don't know. And the biggest thing is take the leap of faith. I think all the podcasts say that, just take a deep dive, but also be smart about it. Like don't get a negative cash flowing asset. Try to get something that makes sense, profitable. If you're buying a property that doesn't make money, you don't have plan for it, don't buy it. So always try to be smart and don't mix emotion. This is a business. This is not a hobby. This is a business. As soon as you start looking at it as a business, you can make it profitable.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You're so right on that. Treat it as a business. It's not a hobby. Yeah. Have your standards, stick to them, and don't let anything else fly. I love that. I've said it before on the podcast, but my first deal, I was in college and it was a seller financing deal. I had to put $6,500 down and I had $6,700 in my account. So I ended up going through it. Luckily, nothing happened. That's a dumb way to invest, but I got into it. So
yeah.
No, that's hilarious. But anyways. On to the next one. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh man, that's I know it's going to change in a year from now. Honestly, I see myself buying 15 units, 30 units. I want to focus on just Los Angeles, to be honest with you. I see myself growing in scale a lot more. I do expect in the next 3 years for me to go away from the 1 to 4 units, now going to the 5 to 10 units. So I do expect 5 years, probably my portfolio to be 20 multifamilies. But we'll see how it goes. I might go bankrupt in 5 years. I don't know.
Knock on wood. Hopefully that's not the case.
But that's the beauty of it. It's the journey. I think the biggest thing about life is that learning, the things that you don't expect are the most beautiful things in life. And us doing this and the journey, even though it's stressful, it's fun. It's like a real life Monopoly game, and seeing if we could get the blue card, the blue properties. So that's how I see it. And to be honest with you, if I stay content, I don't buy any more properties. I think I'm happy where I'm at, but I do see myself growing a lot more in the next 5 years.
Perfect. No, I love that. If anyone is in your area, the Los Angeles area, and what do you need most in your business? Like if someone could help you that's listening to the show, maybe, what could they bring to you that would add the most value for you?
Really, it's starting getting tasks out that I see now that I want to start doing more investing. Is getting project management, getting a good project manager, because you have your contractor, but now the piece I want to grow is I got to get a project manager full time to start managing the projects for me the way I like them managed. So I think the biggest value is project management, tax accounting, and insurance-wise. Always a mortgage lender, because there's always different mortgage lenders out there, but always fine-tuning and getting people as I move into commercial lender, but different things that can help me grow.
Well, perfect. Anyone listening that can help him in those things, where can they find you?
So I really have a low presence in social media, but R&R Builds is my Instagram. My wife and I's Instagram, so you guys can find me there. Don't have a YouTube channel. I try to post as much as I can. We're a two-man show here, so we try to post as much content, and we try to focus more on just the financials of how to buy, how to build, and how we build. We try to be as transparent as possible. We don't post anything personal. We just stick strictly business on our Instagram, and hopefully everyone finds value in the numbers that we present to them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put the link to your Instagram in the show notes so people can go see it. I personally followed you. I think it was like a month ago, but it was recently that I looked and I was like actually going through your report, your Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like doing these ADUs, you're building so much. And I'm like, this is insane. So I really wanted you on. So I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for being on. I think you added a ton of value. And I think you added, a new look on investing, because ADUs, they're not the traditional way to invest, to build them. And, that is a niche investing right there. So I think that could add a lot to people that maybe are in an area that are allowing ADUs, and it's more and more popular. So I think I think that's a great way to invest, and I know you're crushing it. So thank you so much, Roberto. I really appreciate your time, and I know you're going to crush your goals. I can't wait to watch you too.
Thank you. If you follow me, I'll be building 6 more by next year. So 6 more ADUs. So keep on following.
There you go. Heck yeah, go follow them. Perfect. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.